Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. But who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of CLR Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, and I am a board-certified criminal defense lawyer where I actually go over there and try cases. And today we are reacting to Astroworld. Travis Scott, as you know, is a mainstream kind of hip-hop artist that is super popular. And since for the last few years, he's had this outdoor music festival called Astroworld. And Astroworld this year had over 50,000 attendees. Now, what makes this Astroworld different than other concerts is how crazy this got. And we're going to analyze a little bit of what the Texas Penal Code is on riots and how this may impact him. Talk about the death of 8 people that occurred at this thing. Talk about the security guard who had a prick in his neck and was revived. And we're also going to talk about what kind of liability both the promoters and the performers had in this event. So let's get down to it right away. First of all, one of the histories of Travis Scott with some of these concerts is the incitement of other people to do stuff. I know in 2017 he was accused of inciting this guy to jump off a ledge, jump off a balcony, and he said things, we need to see injuries in the mosh pit, that kind of stuff. That is, when you tell other people to commit acts of violence, that is inciting, and you can't do that. And so, one of the things that happened here that you got to look at what the red flags are to establish some kind of liability, whether it's civil or criminal. You have to be able to see what's in the mindset of the person that you're trying to ascribe that liability to, right? And in this case, let's just look at what happened early on. This is at the beginning. This is at the very beginning of the concert. People are storming the ticket gate and getting in without paying, and it's just mayhem. And this is before the concert even starts. And right off the bat, you can see that the authorities have zero control over what's going on here. And one of the dangers that you have in something like this is you get a mob mentality. You get a mob, and it's not too unlike January 6th, where you had people storm the Capitol, and all of a sudden, the things that you normally wouldn't do, all of a sudden you feel empowered to do because, shit, everybody else is doing it, and I'm not going to get caught. Well, the danger with being in charge of a situation like this is that you run the risk of bad things happening. Now, and in this case, you've got a situation where 8 people were killed. 8 people. Now, if you're inciting these people to do whatever, and those people die on your watch, are you responsible? Well, it depends. There's a thing called causation. You have to link up your actions with the death, or at least it has to be reasonably foreseeable. And I think this was just a disaster. It was an absolute disaster, and it was probably foreseeable, especially because in 2015 and 2015, he was telling, or 2015, 2017, he was telling people to storm the stage and encourage people to rush the stage. When you're doing that, when you're getting people all amped up and people are getting injured, you are inciting violence. You're inciting a riot. Now, and it's really, they don't really have to prove much. And the Texas statute says, for the purpose of this section, riot means the assemblage of 7 or more persons resulting in conduct which creates an immediate danger of damage to property or injury to persons, substantially obstructs law enforcement or other governmental functions or services, or by force or threats of force or physical action deprives any person of a legal right or disturbs any person in the enjoyment of a legal right. Now, what does that mean? Basically, what it means is that if you're, first of all, there's more than 7 people there, so that's a given. But if what you're doing is causing other people to create an immediate danger, that's a riot. But here's the problem. Riot by itself is a fairly low-level crime. However, there's a part in the statute that a person commits this offense if he knowingly participates in a riot. And then let's go down to subdivision F, because an offense under this section is an offense of the same classification as any offense of a higher grade committed by anyone engaged in the riot if the offense was in furtherance of the purpose of the assembly, or an offense which should have been anticipated as a result of the assembly. So if somebody kills somebody in that crowd, and you are inciting the riot, you are responsible for the death just as if you did it yourself. And so that's what that part of the statute says. So let's continue on and see what else happens here. So there you got Travis Scott above everybody else, right? And he's doing his thing, and that is not inciting a riot. However, we have an unconscious person there. An unconscious person. Now, I don't know if he can see that. I would think he could. And if you could prove that he saw that and wasn't doing anything about it, there certainly is civil liability, because he as a concert promoter, you have a duty to ensure the safety of the people that are there. You absolutely have that duty. And a little bit later on, people go very much so, they are chanting, stop the show, and they do stop the show a couple times, but then they go right back to it. And then it wasn't until well over a half hour later that all of a sudden, that they continue, or that they stop the show. Now, one of the things in the statute, as we talked about, was interfering with the governmental operations. When you have all these concert goers and they're having fun and all this other stuff, and they're amped up because of what you tell them. And I wasn't there, so I can't 100% say exactly what his role is in terms of the amping up the crowd, right? I assume there was some of that. There has to be some of that, because you want to get your people on the feet, and judging from what his past was. You're gonna have some of that, but the medical personnel and the law enforcement personnel were having a hell of a fucking time getting through the crowd, getting through to the people to get medical help. There was a guard, either a security guard or a law enforcement officer, who was pricked with a needle, and he went down. He went to the hospital, but I don't know who did this, but somebody was thinking pretty fucking fast on his behalf, because they administered Narcan. And when the Narcan is a drug that you give to alleviate the overdose effects of opioids. Now, amazing that somebody thought that quickly, and that person, whoever that is a fucking hero. Really, really awesome. Quick thinking, saved a life. But here's the thing. There are many people that drop dead, and I don't know why they dropped dead. Some of them with heart attacks. People were saying it was hard to breathe, because they're getting all squished in the crowd and that kind of thing. Let's see what happens when the toxicology comes back on these 8 people. Because I find it hard to believe that whoever stuck that security guard with a needle, that was the only person. And if we have that person sticking other people, what we have is a kind of a mass murder situation on our hands. We for sure sticking that needle in the neck of the officer or the security guard would be considered probably attempted murder. And they'll probably be going through footage after footage after footage if they can to try to find out who that was. But that's going to be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's really going to be awfully difficult. Once we look at the toxicology results of the 8 individuals that died, if there's a common theme among those, then we've got a much more sinister thing going on. And that would be a superseding intervening cause, because that would not be because of the riot. And what I mean by superseding intervening cause is something that's really not related to what's going on. It's and somebody sticking somebody with needles is not foreseeable. So Travis Scott wouldn't have any liability on that. But if these people died because they were crushed and they couldn't breathe, and he's inciting this crowd, inciting this riot, then he's really got some liability here. For sure, the concert promoters have liability. If all he is just the performer, I don't see a whole lot of liability. Maybe some, but if he's the performer, the producer, the financier, if this is my show, then he does have both civil and possibly some criminal liability. Like I said, he was charged in 2015 and 2017 for this same type of stuff. And here's the thing, the foreseeability element that we're talking about here, his history bears on that completely. Because if you look at, if you have a history of doing something, it goes to your state of mind. It goes to your knowledge of what would be foreseeable. Now, in this case, he's offered to pay for the funeral expenses for all the people that have passed away. And he's also offered psychological services and he's teamed up, I can't remember the name of the organization was, but he teamed up with an organization to provide psychological services for the survivors of those that have passed. And that is fantastic. And it's fantastic. But when we watch this, let's look at one more here. See, they're trying to get his attention, saying there's somebody that's down. And the problem that you have is there's so many people, right? And it's very difficult to discern whether this is just a concert goer who wants some limelight and get on the stage, or if it's somebody that's actually in need of some help. See, they're yelling and screaming for help, and he's continuing to play. That's a problem for him. He certainly can see this person over here, I would think. Not only that, the person that's operating that camera there certainly has got headphones and probably a microphone. So he's probably got somebody's ear where he could notify somebody. And that guy doesn't know what to do. He's just sitting. He's kind of throwing up his arms. And having that lack of infrastructure, the lack of, and I guess there were probably about 500 officers, off-duty officers that were there. And I guarantee you, most of them were taken up fighting skirmishes and attending to the ones that were, and trying to wade themselves through the crowd. When you got 30,000 people between you and the dead person, how do you fucking get there? That's the problem with this kind of general admission, kind of all-encompassing open yard type of concert. So, and then he reacts to it later on. let's just take a reaction. Let's just take a look at what he says.
I just want to send out prayers to the ones that was lost last night. We're actually working right now to identify the families so we can help assist them through this tough time. You know, my fans really mean the world to me, and I always just really want to leave them with a positive experience. And anytime I can make out, you know, anything that's going on, I stop the show and, you know, help them get the help they need, you know. I could just never imagine the severity of the situation.
Well, that is a positive thing that he's saying there. I mean, he really does care, it appears. But he already said it, I could not even have imagined the severity of the situation, which is probably true.
We've been working closely with everyone to just try to get to the bottom of this. The City of Houston, HPD, Fire Department, you know, everyone to, you know, help us figure this out. So if you have any information.
See, this is the exact right tone, and you can tell he's in a lot of anguish over this. And I don't think for 1 minute he wanted anybody to die, or even thought anybody was going to die.
You know, please just contact your local authorities. Everybody continue to just keep your prayers. I mean, I'm honestly just devastated, and I could never imagine anything like this just happening. I'm gonna do everything I can to keep you guys updated and just keep you guys informed on what's going on.
See, now what you do is, if I'm his handler, you have a press person. I'm sure he's got a press person. You have a press person that does all of that, you know, that gives out a statement. You know, you don't have him. This is striking the exact right tone. And then, you know, I was an EMT all through college. I drove an ambulance, and I've never seen anything like what we see there. You see, there's a video here of them trying to take this woman away on a stretcher, and then they drop the stretcher. It's just mayhem. It's just absolute mayhem. And to try to explain, you know, why these people died is going to be a very tall order for the Houston Police Department. You know, he stopped the show 3 times. I mean, how many times do you need to stop before you really need to just stop? And the fans were screaming, "Stop the show! Stop the show!" All the warning signs were there, you know. So my heart goes out to the families. And someone has already filed a civil suit. And the civil suit names Live Nation, which is the management company, Travis Scott, and the promoters, and pretty much everybody in the chain. And they're alleging that they failed to properly plan for the safe execution of this concert. They ignored the risks, and they're responsible for gross negligence. And the person said they were trampled down by the crowd, and that they failed to provide a safe environment. And those are legitimate concerns. And but they're more so for these 8 individuals who have passed away. And like I said before, let's see what those toxicology results say. Because if that person who stuck the security guard was sticking other people, we have a much more sinister things on our hands. Thoughts and prayers go out to each and every family that lost somebody, and go out to the people that were lost. Let's hope that they are in a better place. That's all I can say. So this has been Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, follow us on Patreon, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.